morning, everyone. This is a podcast. It's our first shot here in the Homes podcast, City of Schenectady. This is my first time doing a podcast, so if I'm a little nervous or rusty, please, you're gonna have to forgive us.
You're forgiven.
Thank you. Thank you. That's exactly what I needed, Jerry.
Yep.
Now it's natural.
There you go.
Perfect. All right, so let's do it again. Here we go.
No, you're good. Just roll.
So guys, here we are in the city of Schenectady. We're going to have a podcast here aimed towards first-time home buyers, people who are looking to relocate or do business in the city of Schenectady. We're going to hopefully answer questions that matter to the people we serve in our market here. So today we have myself and Joe and Jerry, who are real estate agents, and we have someone that is going to be answering all the questions that I actually get, which is, I'm here for a first-time home buyer. What does that mean to me? And for me, I don't have a great question, but usually that question goes to, and Virginia's going to be able to help us with this, if I'm a first-time home buyer, where can I find some money to help me along the process?
Correct.
I just want to introduce myself for 2 seconds, and we'll go around and do that. I've been a full-time real estate agent for 3 years. My broker is a real estate attorney, so I am my firm's only agent. I don't really think I'm a great salesperson. I let the house sell it. I just am great with showing, listening, and doing the paperwork, right? Mm-hmm. I'm a 100%, if it works, great. If it doesn't, awesome. I don't go into the kitchen and say, this is a stove, so this is the kitchen. Here's a toilet, this is the bathroom. If you can't figure it out, I think that's the issue there. I live local, not in Schenectady, but Schenectady adjacent. My backyard is in Schenectady. I do 90% of my business here. I know a lot of people like looking up and seeing, hey, if this is the agent I pick, where's their area of influence? And for me, I do 90% of my deals like within 10 minutes of my house. So like if someone asks me if I'm local, I'm hyper local. Mm-hmm. I will travel 20, 30 minutes, but beyond that, I'm going to let another agent do it, because if we're in Greenfield or somewhere far away, that's not my area of expertise. I'm going to pass that off to someone who can serve that. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to go any further on me today. So, Joe, up to you.
Hey, guys. How are you? I'm Joseph Krongold. I'm a licensed associate real estate broker. I am with Howard Hanna. I love what I do. I help first-time home buyers. Been doing it for the last couple of years, working with buyers, sellers, and investors. I come to the table really with a lot of experience. I have a very strong financial background, so when we're talking to clients, answering questions from an investor standpoint, we're able to really give them a deep dive into the marketplace. A lot of the questions are about financing and the locations of where we work and live. Working with clients is very, very important. So I'm excited to be here.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
You forgot to tell them all the suits you own.
Yes, that's right.
I'm Jerry. I'm a licensed realtor as well. I work for Keller Williams. I've been in the business for 3 years, and just have been hitting the pavement ever since. So I do a lot of different things. Real estate is just another part of my life that I focus on. But I love the gym, as you guys know. I love to do other things, and then real estate is just a part of it. So. With that being said, we have the one and only Virginia Rawlins.
Thank you guys for having me. I feel special. And I'm your first guest.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you for being here.
So my name is Virginia Rawlins. I'm also a realtor, so I'm in great company. But I think I'm here to, in my role as president of Building Blocks Together. And our mission is to create equity and wealth for minorities through ownership, education, and development.
I love that.
Beautiful.
I mean, I was able to do some homework on you. So a lot of
I hope so.
homework.
I provide enough
this.
content.
You do. What I noticed was that you lived in the Bronx before you got up here in the Capital Region.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because I'm also from the Bronx too.
Born and raised in the Bronx. So I lived on two opposite sides of the Bronx, actually. I lived on the Concourse, and I also lived by Soundview.
Okay.
So I'm thoroughly in the Bronx.
Okay.
Yeah.
Only spot I know was Kingsbridge. Anything else at Soundview, I don't.
Yeah, so that's like the west side of the Bronx.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all the way uptown. But What got you to Albany? I know you graduated in 2013.
SUNY Albany. I came up here for college. I actually wanted to go to HBCU, but they wouldn't give me any financial aid. So
Really?
Albany welcomed me with open arms.
They missed out on an opportunity there.
Yes, absolutely. So I majored in economics, graduated 2013, and then I've kind of been in Albany ever since, honestly. I consider Albany home now. So, yeah.
And you're doing a lot of things, right, David?
I'm doing too much things, too many things. I'm trying
easy
to
overstretch.
Yeah.
Tell us about those things that you're doing.
So like I said, I'm a realtor, but I think building blocks is obviously my pride and joy. I started building blocks in 2018, just kind of actually just being at the land bank. So I started at the land bank through Lisc AmeriCorps, and just coming from the state, it was so macro, like the budget so like big, it's $1 billion budget. And just, I'm like, this is great work, obviously, right? But I wanted to get in something more impactful, where, as I used to say, like, touch the community, right? And so I think my role as housing service counselor in the land bank, I was quite literally almost the community engagement person as well. I was so much in the community. And so that was really fulfilling for me. But I think kind of in that role, I was able to recognize some of the gaps, if you will, right? So I'll give you a perfect example, just specifically to like kind of like Albany. So Albany County Land Bank, to go through their process, they want you to have proof of purchase, right? So loan, if you're going to sell your house, right?
Yep.
Just kind of have the bank statement, right? City of Albany's grant wants you to have the deed already to the house.
How do you get that?
How do you get a deed to a house if the organization you're going to is telling you, I need you to prove that you have the funds, right? So there's obviously a big separation there, right?
Yeah,
So building blocks was kind of created out of that, right? And I think ultimately the focus neighborhoods of the land bank, South End, West Hill, West End, North Albany, what's the fifth one? I forget. It's been a little while. But I mean, ultimately, right? So those are neighborhoods that they focused on. And then I guess it's no secret, and I think the AG actually just came out with a report, and Times Union also did a great article on redlining, right? So those neighborhoods specifically were redlined, and right, and we can kind of still see the effects today. Wow. If you go on my Instagram, I have like a redlining post that I recycle every so often, but just kind of like the core areas, so core areas that, you know, City of Schenectady properties like kind of fall in, redline areas. Same thing in Troy. The area that Trip primarily works in, right? Redline areas.
Tell our listening audience what redlining is and how it affects the community, just so they understand.
Of course. So redlining was essentially kind of like banks and government and real estate, right? Agents, industry in general, just kind of coming together and designating a neighborhood either safe, right, medium, or moderate or unsafe, right? And so green is obviously good neighborhood, yellow, moderate, and then redlining, hence the name redlining, right? So most urban neighborhoods were kind of classified redlining, and just based on the HOLIC map, banks would decide, are we going to lend there or not, right? And in certain cases, you had realtors, they wouldn't, you know, let's say African Americans or Hispanics, they wouldn't kind of steer them or guide them to look at houses in green or moderate neighborhoods, right? They would try to keep them kind of in the urban core, right? And just so happened to, those are the same neighborhoods that were redlined. So we kind of have like, you know, some illegal steering going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think redlining was a bank policy saying no matter what happens, I don't care who it is, we don't lend here.
That's right.
And steering is something that we, as all agents here, have done our training on, and to not do and to not comment on neighborhoods, because a lot of times they align, you know, steering and redlining, but one is a policy and one is, you know, actions of the individual.
Right? Correct.
So that's my understanding there. But yeah, there's whole areas that, you know, we need to get people investing in heavily, you know, to even out a playing field. I think that happened. Oh, sorry about that. I think that happens still, even against best intentions. You know, there's people that don't want to sell houses under $100,000. I mean, and I love selling houses at $5,000 and $10,000. You know,
Really?
I'm serious. I mean, but I have a minimum. Like my commission minimum is $1,500, and people are like, well, why is that? Because I sold 411 Summit here in Schenectady, a city property, for $3,000.
Gotcha.
I can't get out. I can't pay for my kids to go to school, or a new backpack when my dog eats my daughter's backpack last week. They're expensive.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
people are like, "Hey, this is my budget." I'm like, "Cool, you've given me a challenge. Let's figure it out." And I'm actually using Virginia. We used her grant last year for a house here in Schenectady, and I have another one in Amsterdam. So thank you very much for the work
Wow.
you do.
Thank you.
The guy we're going to close in Amsterdam, as far as I know, has never owned a home. Right, generationally never owned a home, and we're getting him a 2-family that's going to provide some awesome stability.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
and it was an impossibility to close
Yeah.
without that
The grant.
So so you've touched my clients' lives like actually once previously and one coming up. So I'm wicked excited to have you here. So I can thank you in person and from me. So thank you
Yeah,
very
so
much.
I think that's cool, right? I think honestly, like obviously, I like being a real estate agent, right? But I think it's my work, especially through this grant, that's changing lives, right? So we have people who, without the grant, some people they're not going to be able to afford it, right? Obviously, we're all like aware of interest rates. Interest rates are increasing, they have increased significantly. Prices are not decreasing at any time, right?
No, not at all.
So, most people, obviously they want to back out of the market, thinking that it's volatile. But as an agent, right, that's my agent has, like, it's always a good time to buy. And they're like, why do you say that? Somebody just said, on some podcast, they said it's not a good time to buy. I'm like, why are you listening to them? If you have the funds and you can afford the payment, and there's and there's grant funds and just kind of you can stack funding, it's always a good time to buy if you can afford to buy, right? But if you can't afford to buy, that's a different conversation.
Exactly.
Can you tell us about the grant? I'm sorry.
That's what. Yeah. You
Tell us
take it away.
about the grant, the name of the grant. How does one apply for the grant? And because I think our listening audience definitely wants to know more about that.
Yeah, this is like the hottest
This
grant.
is money, guys.
Yeah, this is the hottest grant in the capital region, apparently. But a funny thing, right? So I don't know how. Maybe just Facebook targeting, just because I had a couple like online events in the city.
Okay.
But I have like people like from the city
Hitting you up.
hitting me up about the grant. And
Not
like,
Albany
I
City. You're talking like the
New
big-
York
New
City.
York City, the
New
Big
York
Apple.
City.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like New
Tell us
York
about
City,
that.
like
This is-
inquiring about the grant. So the grant's pretty cool.
You get excited about this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, just to say, I have a lot of friends who've used your grant. I haven't used it yet. So I feel a little taken back by it.
Yeah.
You got to hook me up. But
the money is there. The money is
but
there.
with that being said, yeah, a lot of friends who bought homes around my age, they've always said Virginia's hooked it up. She's helped me with these grants, and I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, you bringing what to closing?
Yeah. So like I said, some people are bringing. I had a closing not too long ago. I think the lady brought less than 500 to closing.
What?
Yeah.
To buy a house, that's like
goodness.
practically unheard of, right? So some people I'm closing the gap, right? They have $20,000 and $10,000 obviously makes it a lot more reasonable.
Time out.
Yep.
You're bringing you brought $20,000 to the table for them to close on their house.
No, so for example, if somebody their total closing cost is $20,000, the max you can get with the grant's 10.
Okay.
So
Wow,
if you're
that's a lot of money.
that's still a lot of money, right? So if you're in Albany, right, you qualify for 10,000. Schenectady, Troy, Rensselaer, Waterville, and Amsterdam, you qualify for 5. Yep. So just kind of taking it back a little bit. So
what's the process? How does someone who doesn't know how to get a hold of you and wants to apply and get there, how do they start?
So everybody should be able to get a hold of me now. I made sure that my Google profile is up to date, all my socials are up to date, and all that information should be good. Right, so nobody should not be able to get a hold of me. So let's
We'll have
start.
your contact
Yeah,
information
yeah.
on
So
here also.
let's start there. People are like, you're so unreachable, and it's not on purpose, right? And it's not on purpose, and I feel like that's almost like a bad thing given the opportunity that I have, right? So. I've been really diligent, right, to kind of make myself available again, accessible again, because I think that's really important to kind of be available to have this type of conversation, interact with clients, even if they're not ready to buy, but just know that resource is available to them.
Correct.
So how do you start the process of the grant?
Yep.
You go on the website, so buildingblocks.com/resources. Right at the top, I think I have 2/3 of the page. It's really about just grant information, right? You can download the application from online. You can pay the app fee right online. And essentially, we started during the pandemic, so you are submitting your documents virtually, right, via email. So everything is essentially done online, and the only thing that happens in person Is I either drop off the check in person or you come pick up the check in person.
Oh my God.
So if buyers listening,
Yeah, I'm doing the grant from from start actual funding, cutting the check, bringing the check in person. I'm the whole
awesome.
process.
So if someone's listening and they say, do they reach out to you before or after they start looking at homes? Do they reach out to you and start the process before or after they go under contract?
Either one's fine, honestly. So one of the requirements, we are asking for an executed purchase contract.
Okay.
So if you haven't started the process yet, I would say don't submit any documents. I mean, I don't think you have any documents if you are not in the contract technically, right? So we're asking for your purchase contract, loan estimate, mortgage commitment letter, mortgage application, right? On your mortgage application, you kind of self-identify, right? The grant is targeted towards African Americans, and we're not trying to be discriminatory and say, oh, maybe this person looks like, right? You for sure on your mortgage application tell me what you are. And if you qualify, you qualify. If you don't, I'll let you know. But I just don't let you know that you don't qualify and don't send you other resources, right? Like I say, where are you buying and where are you in the process, right? Because if you're looking to stack grants, I know Trip. I previously worked for Trip, so I know for Trip's process, you can't be under contract, right?
What does that mean, stacking grants?
So stacking grants or stacking funding, you're using different funding sources to kind of get to your end goal. So, for example, a capital stack or a financial stack would be obviously your loan, takes up most of it. Right. And then let's say you live in Schenectady, you'll get BC&I's grant. I think it's up to $10,000 or up to $25,000. I think if you're doing rehabs, and then you'll get my grant possibly, which is $5,000 for Schenectady. And then let's say, for example, you have a Sunny May product, right? They also have a DPOW loan, and you can kind of stack that on top of that as well.
No, you're also a counselor too, right? So people could ask you questions. Okay, that's good to know.
Cool.
Okay. So are there any courses associated to getting the grant? Do you have to?
No. So the grant is. So let me kind of go back a little bit because I want to go back to the red line and kind of really the importance of the grant. So Charles Toohey, founder of Toohey Foundation. So that's where the funding come from. It's a private funding source, which is why he's able to kind of racially identify, right, how he wants the money spent, right. Federal funds, they typically go by income and family size. So that's kind of the difference there. And he's done development work all over the capital region, but Albany is like his baby, and that's why it's $10,000 for Albany. But creating minority home ownership, literally through development. He's been in development for over 30 years. He funds pretty much all the organizations really that you guys kind of see as grassroots in Albany. So he's like a lot of the push behind a lot of people that you see that are very similar to myself. So I wanted to touch on that. But more specifically than that, even just the mission of the grant, right? It's specifically to undo the effects of redlining today, right? Obviously in 2020, there was an uprising. We kind of saw what the effects of that was. And then the conversations out of that was kind of the generational wealth grab, right? So the grant was created, and we've been going for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Do you have numbers in regards to how many people you've helped up to this point, and how many grants you've given out?
I think it's 162.
Wow.
In 3 years.
Get out.
162 new African-American home buyers, 1.5 million allocated in 3 years.
Fantastic.
We get another round of applause for that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's a lot of hard work. But as you guys can imagine, it's obviously very satisfying. Like I said, closing that gap for some people. Most people were closing that gap if, like I said, they have $15,000, $20,000 in closing costs. That's obviously $5,000, $10 is a big difference.
Huge.
For others, they're coming to the table with less than $1,000. Most people less than $500, and that's really unheard of, right? And I think a few people who's bought multi-units, they actually walked away from the table with money.
What?
Yeah. And I think that's less than 5 people. But to even have that, a part of that kind of group, I think that's amazing.
Doesn't even sound real.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't sound real.
How much were your closing costs? Too much.
A lot.
Well, I think,
Speechless.
I think we can tie in another conversation about seller concessions, but I mean that's that can take a big chunk. I don't want to delve into that today and take away from Virginia here, but yeah, there's a lot of tools in the tool belt with a good real estate agent to get home ownership down. There's going to be people listening be like, I thought I needed 20% down and 10,000 in closing costs.
That's like the immediate
That's
people
what they've
like
been told all along.
That's right.
So I have people that come like, I want to buy a house, but I don't have the 20%. And my first thing is the grant is not close to anywhere 20%, right? But literally, I tell everybody, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And the reason why I say don't worry about it, because literally the whole capital region, I'm talking if you buy in Colony, they have a grant. Schenectady has a grant. If you're buying outside of, you're still in Albany County, but you're outside the city of Albany, there's a grant for kind of like the rural area, right? City of Albany has a grant. City of Troy has a grant. City of Schenectady has a grant, right? So there's so many grant resources that's available where I don't ever feel like somebody should worry about starting the process, right? If you start the process and you find that you're not ready, that's okay, right? But money, not having enough money shouldn't be, obviously if you don't have money in your bank account, right, you shouldn't start the process. But if you're like, I don't have $20,000 just saved, nobody I know does either.
We have to have some.
Right.
Our buyers have to have some.
Right, you have to have some skin in the game, obviously, but
the idea that we have to build a nest egg for decades before we consider the process is really, unfortunately, it seems to be misinformation in the ethos out here. Like, we can do it for pretty low entry level numbers.
And then a lot of I'm noticing a lot of banks now have in-house grants. It's up to maybe $2,500. They're smaller, but there's still those grants.
Now, we have a non-commercial kind of attitude here, so I'm not going to mention the bank.
Okay.
But there is a bank that does grants at zero, obviously, or $2,500 or $5,000, and that's based on neighborhood in an attempt to undo redlining histories of the past.
Nice.
It's a big bank. It's local. I can't put it out there.
Yeah, is that upcoming?
No, it's been out there and
we should talk offline then.
Well, I don't know what my ability to advertise a bank would be, because I don't want to steer people to a bank.
Yep.
Sarah, this isn't like a commercial setting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But in some cases, there are these lenders that partner with agents, and they'll put a sign out, hey, this house qualifies for a $2,500 grant, and that you'll see.
Yeah.
So you were talking grant stacking. I mean, I don't think that maybe getting a $2,500 grant from a bank is the reason to choose a lending institution you're going to be in partner with for 30 years.
Yeah.
But
absolutely not. If somebody's if Bank A is giving you $2,500, but Bank B is qualifying you for a lot more and a slightly better rate, then
the rate makes a big difference.
Right. I would obviously tell you to go with Bank B, although this bank over here has that $2,500 grant. But also let's not forget the Homebuyer Dream Grant, because that's like a game changer. I think it's $9,500.
Talk to us about that. Can you talk to us about that for a minute?
Yeah. So Homebuyer Dream Grant, same qualifications as most of the grants. It is income based. It's most institutions in the capital region carry the grant, and for that grant you do have to be under contract. I call that last in money, right? And I would consider my grant last in money as well, but
Cool.
Yeah. Grants.
There's a lot out
there. You gotta get it. You gotta get to it.
A lot out there.
I think the home buyers I've helped, sometimes you just want to get into a house and you forget about this part of the business, not the business, but the resource. Grants, they can help you along the process that you can only imagine. If you got to bring $20,000 to the closing table and you got a grant from Virginia building blocks for $10,000, you only need $10,000 to bring to the closing table.
Yep. You could also stack them up.
You get to save $10K and then put it towards the house. It's something that I think a lot of people, thank you for coming too, need to listen to, because it only helps. Especially when you're buying, it's so much emotion, a lot of energy towards just getting that house, but then we forget about these other resources in the community that can assist with buying the home.
Yeah. I mean, he mentioned seller concessions. I've had, in clients on the building block side through the grant, that received seller concessions, and they're using the grant, and they're stacking with other grants. So people are getting very creative.
Don't tell me that. I'm buying 10 houses through you after this.
People are, really getting creative. And the way the real estate market is, you kind of have to kind of make that home ownership, dream a reality. But I think it can be done, right? I think I don't want to say her name, but I know somebody who bought a Habitat house, right? And they started at 120 something thousand. When it was all said and done, I think she got Home Buyer Dream. She got the Schenectady grant, and she got the Building Blocks grant. I think her mortgage ended up being like, and I'm rounding up, her mortgage ended up being like $60,000.
Get out.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need a receipt of that. I need to see that. That does not exist.
Yeah, I was like going through, right? Because I'm like going through the paperwork, make sure
No.
everything is good. And I'm like, wait. And then I'm like flipping back on the loan estimate. And then I'm like looking at the closing disclosure. I'm like, wait, hold on. Wait. So yeah. If you do it right, and you're very familiar or familiar with the resources and when to start the process for one grant over the other, you can get easily up to 30,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, that leads into the next question I wanted to ask you, because you've touched so many people's lives and you've really made a difference generationally, right, with families and individuals. Are you in touch with these people over time? Once you close a deal and they purchase their home, do they come back to you? Tell us about that, because it's really becomes part of community.
Yeah. So some of the grantees, a lot of the clients that I get come from other agents. Well, first of all, shout out to all the real estate professionals in the Capital Region. Right?
Love you guys.
I think
a lot of them out there. A lot of great,
I think it's
great realtors out there.
They are.
The brand Building Blocks is big, but I think I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to you guys, right, personally, and really admit that the work that I do can't be done, right, without the community buying into the dream and without the real estate professionals really kind of carrying those deals, over the finish line. So I really do appreciate that.
Awesome. That's great. So aside from doing grants, you also are a full-time realtor or part-time?
Part-time.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, whoever signs up with you, they have,
Yeah, but I mean, it's
have
you can,
gold.
you can sign up with me. But I think honestly, more people know me for the grant and Building Blocks than actually being a realtor. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and I think that's okay. I think the reason why I got into real estate, right? Like I mentioned before, I was at the land bank and I just kind of saw the opportunity, and I, came across people who were like, I'm getting my, my tax income check in 2 weeks, so I have proof of funds in 2 weeks for you guys, right? And it's just like that drive, that tenacity. It was like, dang, like I gotta do more. And so honestly, becoming a realtor, I was just like, this is another way I can help the community. This is another way I can tap in. And then around the same time, honestly, I started Building Blocks, and and it just blew up. So I kind of have to feed that baby and take care of that one.
What keeps you motivated? Because I feel like doing something like that, you have like a bigger goal, a bigger picture.
Yeah.
And every time I see you, you're at networking events, you're at community events, you're doing things to continually boost your brand. But like, what keeps you going every day?
I think honestly, big picture, right, is the impact. And I think just people knowing that, it's more than a sale, right? And there's people out there that really cares
I love it.
About you getting into a home, and how can we figure this out, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have 20,000 saved. You probably don't have 20,000 saved, and that's okay, right? But how can we make real estate, home ownership a reality for you, right? And I think just even before I got into real estate specifically, we would have in-office debates when I was still at the assembly all the time, like all these policies, and we're still talking about the same things year after year after year, right? And it's one thing to like throw money at an issue, right? But I think it's a completely other thing if the people who are involved like really truly care about the issue, right? And I think just kind of creating our home ownership, creating that opportunity for wealth for me, really kind of like keeps me going.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then like emails, like people like sometimes immediately, sometimes months later, sometimes I'm out at Price Chopper and they're like, Building Blocks, I got your grant. Thank you so much. And
That's
honestly,
awesome.
like being up 2, 3,
awesome.
4 o'clock in the morning, of course you get aggy, but one time I went into BJ's randomly on a Friday, like, let me just get some dinner. Sat at the bar. Guy was like, Building Blocks. I didn't have like the logo on, nothing like that. He was like, I got your grant. He was somebody else who apparently stacked up maybe like 30,000, 35,000 in grants. Wow. Right? So I was like, That's why I do it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
sometimes they get spaced out, especially when I go into my modes where I'm just like in the lab and I'm not really touching the people as much. But when I do pop back out, it's always, thank you so much. Without your grant, I couldn't have done it. Or you saved me X amount of dollars. And, I think it's just a great feeling.
That kind of, we spoke earlier in regards to why we do this, and everybody's motivation is different. But like me, myself, I mean, I'm single. I'm out hitting the pavement every day.
Yeah.
So I have nothing else to focus on but just trying to level up
Yeah.
each and every day. I know David's story is a little different though. He has wife, kids. He's where I want to be.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, right.
I have 2 kids now. My wife is finishing up our 3rd daughter here, due mid-January, and my goal is to do about 40 to 50 deals a year. Last year I was at 36. We'll get into why, in my opinion, I'm not going to hit 36 this year, and it's on this beautiful piece of paper that Joe prepared. But I don't want to do 100 deals, because for me it's a balance, right? And this is something I guess we're catching up on now. There are agents out there that are killing it, that are doing way more deals than me, and maybe they have slightly better systems or better follow up, or they have agents underneath them. But for me, I mean, I have to have that strong balance. But on a touching part here, I've had a couple clients that we've struggled to find a home, and we finally get one. You get a hug, and other clients get a handshake, and other clients a thumbs up, and they all have value. Everyone has value, but I remember a couple of times I get hugs and tears of joy. And I'm like, wow, that's because it's easy for us to forget it's a job.
so true.
For me, it's a job. It's how I
Yeah.
pay for stuff.
Right.
But there is such a human piece to it, and it's like this is the first time someone's gonna celebrate a religious. I don't want to say just Christmas or whatever, but they'll have control over where their holidays are spent. They're gonna have control over. Am I allowed to get a bigger stove that'll cook a bigger turkey for 20 people? Are the other tenants in this building going to yell at me if we're doing, a New Year's party, right? They have control for the first time.
Right.
I mean, yeah, generational wealth, but the idea to have so much more control over your life, to me, that's it. Is can you put someone in the driver's seat of their own life, and having stable housing is a huge difference.
Absolutely.
In that end.
So many people, so the outcomes report, just like a couple lines of narrative, tell us about your process, right? Some people, even like now, right? A few people, I started my process during the pandemic. I just found the house. I looked at 3 million houses. It was so hard. It was so horrible, right? But the last line is always, I'm so grateful for the grant. If they have kids, my kids are so grateful to have a backyard to call their own, our own, to create, have their own room, a house that's ours. We're celebrating our first Christmas, our first Thanksgiving, our first whatever in this house, and it's like, this is why I do it, right?
I can finally get the dog I've wanted
Right.
for my kids. They've been asking for one.
I can decorate the way that I want to. I've always wanted to put a she shed in the backyard or whatever. No, like
Everyone needs one of
it's like
those.
different reasons, but I think all the reasons that people have, it's just like, this is so amazing, right?
Yes.
And it's just, to me, like the money's, like the grant is a big deal, but them being in that house and getting in that house and like realizing that dream, like it's the biggest deal.
That's where I'm at too. I think that's like we all have different reasons why we buy real estate. It might be I wanted to get the schools, or I wanted to the foundation, or I wanted something to let my parents come live with me. It's different for everybody. Everyone's story is different. They may have a lot of similarities, but the stability thing and the right to choose how you live in your own home is huge.
It's a freedom, right?
It is. It's like in upstate New York. It's like getting your driver's license.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's to me, it's a fundamental piece.
How about you, Joe? What keeps you going every day?
It's the families and individuals that I've helped along the way. I look back, and the one thing I get a commonality is thank you for making a difference. Thank you for being there and supporting me, and also thank you for bringing a sense of comfort to a very challenging time when looking for homes, buying or selling. It's a scary time for many because it's the unknowns that come up, and if we can take people off that emotional roller coaster and really be that sound voice of reason, it becomes very powerful, and it empowers me to be able to help someone taking them through the process. That's what gets me up and excited every morning.
Wow, you got me motivated. I want to run through that door right now.
Damn.
Yeah. I think this is a key point to kind of go into the market and see what the market is doing.
How is the market doing?
It's a good question. I think you know the answer to it.
Yeah, we do.
We have all these sheets here in regards to what it's been doing. Joe, take it away.
Oh, thank you very much. So these facts and figures, they come to us through the Greater Capital Association of Realtors. That's where we're pulling the facts. And what's great is we're going to be able to share these numbers with you on an ongoing basis. And obviously the market's it's a fluid market. Things change. So we're going to really take a look at this local market that we're in today in the city of Schenectady. And for those that are out there that want to look at other markets, let us know. Please don't forget to like, click, and subscribe. We're here for you. Tell us what you want. Comment below. And we'll be able to bring you what you're looking for. Today, with the city of Schenectady, there's been a lot of changes in this market, and it's not what it was. When looking at the overall markets, when we're looking at the year-to-date numbers from September, new listings, 2022, we're looking at 78 new listings in the market. Well, fast forward a year later, wow, we're looking at the market's down down 41%. 2023, we have new listings of 46. So we
Wow.
so that's really, it's a big slice to the market availability, and we could talk momentarily about what that how that equates out to the marketplace to other agents.
Let's take a pause right there. I'm sorry
ahead.
to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
But from 76 in 2022 to 46 in 2023, David, what's the reason there?
Talk to us, David.
Is it just Is it just interest rates?
No,
Is it just?
this is new listings. This is what's available for sale. It's got nothing to do with the
Look at
ability
that.
to buy. This is what's available. This is only what's available to
Correct.
So
Yeah,
we're
this is
so,
inventory.
So why are sellers not putting more homes on the market?
maybe they have no place to go. Maybe the dream of retiring in Florida passed this year.
Gotcha.
I don't know, but I'll tell you what it looks like on the buyer side. To have 32 less listings available to choose from listed in September, 32 is a huge chunk.
That's huge.
That's huge. So when other agents are like, hey, my business is down a little bit, dude, we're 41% less choices this year than we had last year. Now, I'm going to take that number and slide right down to the month supply of inventory.
Great.
Let's say
Look at
6
that.
months is a normalized market.
Yeah.
Where if you stopped listing homes today, you have 6 months of inventory through your buy. So last year at 1.4 months, that means you walk into a store and 75% of the shelves are bare.
Wow.
Holy cow. You
Wow.
want to talk about choices?
Yeah, not
You
many.
might have whole aisles that are empty.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. This year we have 1.6. So we have fewer houses, but we have a little bit more time, which means things are moving slower.
Exactly.
And I bet if we went to days on market, well, that's not a great example because that's just 21 to 13.
13. Yeah.
Right. But on overall, if you go to year to date, last year we were at 22 days on market.
And then it
Now
goes-
we're in 29. So we're a little bit sluggish. Anyone, their uncle would tell you 30 days on market is still wicked fast.
Oh, yeah.
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 But what I like too in this chart is the median sales price. I mean, having a 1.6 months of supply of inventory, and then homes are flying off the market only 13 days before they get an offer.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's jumped up to $248,300 for the median sales price. So there's not enough of them, but people are still buying.
People are still buying.
There's a lot of buyers out there.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about interest rates. I mean, interest rates this year over last year. Joe, what were they last year? We're
3.5%.
full,
Like
4.
4%.
Yeah, four
And
and some
they're
change.
7.5 to 8 today, right?
Correct.
So it costs twice as much to borrow the money. The average home is up 14% over last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it costing twice as much to borrow the money, and you're up 14%. That's chasing a lot of home ownership dreams away. I
Correct.
mean, let's just lay it out there.
Yep.
We have more money, and it's more expensive to borrow money. We might be able to get down payment assistance, but what I could borrow last year buys me half what I can buy this year.
Correct.
That's a big change. That's pushing some American dreams down the road,
Mm-hmm.
right?
The best time to buy real estate was yesterday.
Your best day in real estate was yesterday?
The best time to buy,
Oh, yes.
buy real estate was yesterday.
I say it's 30 years ago, it's yesterday, or it's today.
Yeah.
All right? Right? It's just like planting a tree. You want the swing set underneath the tree
Yeah, I
30
want
years
that.
ago. Grandpa needed to plant that tree for you.
Yeah.
Where was he when I needed that tree?
But that's what we're talking about, generational wealth. You're going to be someone's grandparent possibly one day.
Correct.
And oh, thank goodness my grandparents bought a house with grant programs, with seller concessions, with an agent that cared about the family story. 30 years from now, we tell the story. But if we don't buy today, we don't plant the seed, we won't tell that story.
Yeah.
Right? That's where
Exactly.
it comes down to.
Sounds like it's not what you do, it's what you start. So start with
Exactly.
the plan.
Start.
Strategy.
Just start.
Exactly.
Start the process.
I'll-
Have a conversation. Start.
I always say does depending on what the market does, it goes up and down every year. And I'm still new in the business, but I've seen the ebbs and flows. If you're ready to buy and you're well equipped, then buy.
That's right.
Because even in this type of market, there's less competition. So assuming everything flips in 2024 and there's more inventory, you're only going to deal with more buyers trying to compete over the same house, and it's going to be a lot harder. So
And
depending,
it's probably going to cost more.
exactly,
And it will cost more.
and it will
not
cost more,
probably.
exactly, just because buyers are going to be driving up the price.
That's right.
So
Well, I also want to talk about to people who are out there considering buying a house at 8% interest rate. Rates go up and down. Date the rate, marry the house.
correct, yeah.
Find the right house, figure out how to buy it, get some stability. There will always be a chance to
Marry the house.
refinance. I don't know when it's going to be.
No.
When's it going to be? No crystal ball? No crystal ball?
No crystal ball, but also we saw 2% interest rates in a global pandemic.
I'm at
You guys want
2.75.
another global pandemic for better rates?
We won't see that ever
I'm at
again.
2.75
Never.
on the 30-year.
Right.
That's it. Like my wife's like, should we put money towards the mortgage and cut off a couple end payments? I'm like, we'll never borrow money this cheap. I
Right.
can't borrow money from my friends at 2.75. It's a pizza here and then it's steak tomorrow.
Right.
100%
Right.
interest rate for dinner.
And then I think it's also important to look at the rates historically, right?
Absolutely.
Right, we're
What
getting-
would it be?
So I think on average, historically, we're looking at 8.5 on average,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But
Good
I
rates
think the
historically
80s
were
or something,
six.
it was like 11%, 12%.
My parents, when they bought the farm, I don't mean they died. I mean they purchased the farm. Okay. The bank called them and said it's like 17% today. You need to close on Friday because it's going to 20.99 next Monday.
Holy mackerel!
So it was
in
a
1982.
3-point jump. I don't remember the year. I don't remember. I was actually. I think that's probably right.
Probably,
'Cause I
yeah.
think they owned the farm a couple years before I was born. They're like, you got to close Friday.
Yeah.
It's on Monday. It's unaffordable.
Yeah.
3 points over a weekend.
wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
and they knew about it a couple days beforehand, so they could plan out. Be like, Friday's it.
That's like a hard stop.
Well, I mean, we still see we get these interest rate locks. It's 30, 60, 90 days, and it's like we have to close today
Yeah.
because if they will be unaffordable and non-buying potential next week,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
So, we deal with that pressure, all the time. It's how do we get a yes and how do we get it faster? How do we close before we run out of time? Actually, that just pops a question in. Once you have hey, we'll give you a grant, do they have a certain amount of time to take advantage of it before the approval disappears?
No, so that's kind of why so when I first started administering a grant, I basically ran it as a rolling grant, right? So you didn't have to be on the contract. As long as you submitted an application, paid the fee, whenever you found the house, right? You were almost in this like queue purgatory.
Yeah.
And then you would just kind of send me your documents randomly. And I was like, yeah. So I ran it like that for the first 2 rounds. And I was like, yeah, this is not going to work, right? It's just not going to work. Because what happens is people submit 2 documents here. And then I might reach out, then it's like nothing because like, they did the inspection and now they have to go
manage
get
that.
quotes
Yeah.
and they have to do some other things. And then I don't hear from them. And then they're like, here's the rest of my documents. I close tomorrow. Can I get the check? Right? And so that's why I couldn't run it as a rolling grant anymore. But once you get the conditional commitment letter, essentially on my end, and you guys obviously don't see this, but on my end in my spreadsheet, I'm kind of like taking that money out the pot, if you will.
Yeah.
Right. So it's essentially available. Right. It's essentially available when you come back for it, unless you say I'm no longer under contract. Then the money's there. But what people do, like they do go out of contract or the deal falls through. But like I said, they won't say anything to me. Then they come back with like a whole new set of documents. Like I close tomorrow. Here's my new document. Here's my new property. Right. But I mean, I've jumped through hoops to get it done for people. Like I said, I personally have dropped off checks. When I first started the grant, I was just so like big-eyed, if you will. And I'm like, yeah, I could do it. I could do everything. Everybody's asking me, yeah. And I was like, this is not going to work.
And then the reality sets
Right.
in when 500 people take you up on that and they're piecemealing these things along.
Right.
Yeah.
And then like, so I've gotten a couple calls like, so I have this person that needs the grant. but here's the thing, they close tomorrow. And I'm like, all right, yeah, we can do it. After money, we can do it, right? And so I had to like stop myself from doing that because those people that kind of jump in at the last minute kind of throw off the people who are already in the process, right? And then now it's, if we get into a refunding period and you're like, well, I'll close tomorrow. And I'm like, we're refunding, right? So it really doesn't work. And so to make sure that the funds are there when you need them to be there, we kind of like take that money out of play once you apply it, once I send out like that letter.
So rule of thumb, start early once you find the house and have a fully executed contract.
So I would say start early, but just be cognizant of all the funding sources, right? So if you live in Schenectady, and then I'm not 100% of their process if you need to start like before you get under contract. And I'm pretty sure you do because the funds are administered through BCNI. You know, you go through their counseling process, qualify for the grant. So, and that happens before, right? And like I said, you know, my grant, the RSJF grant, Homebuyer Dream Grant, certain grants are last in money. So, like, they want you to, like, we want you to be on the contract, whereas maybe TRIP and another organization doesn't want you to be on the contract before you kind of start the grant process. So you just have to know what grant requires what, so you can kind of, like, stack it properly. But in this, I would say for me, yeah, once you get on the contract, then you can
Send it over.
just send it over.
Send it over.
Yep,
Okay.
send it over.
Perfect. Well, community events. I know, Joe, you wanted to touch.
Sure, we were just talking about that before.
Yes.
And, can you share with us some of the community events, noteworthy community events that are upcoming that you might know of?
Yeah, so I have a fireside chat coming up with the Black Expo. It's pretty much it's a spin on workshops that I've done in the past, but I did this year want to and start adding the conversation about redlining. I think a lot of the work that I'm doing right with the grant, which was specifically created to combat redlining, and kind of my personal mission for my company, kind of touches on that as well. So just kind of another home buyer, one-on-one, how to buy a house, what do you need to do? But again, I do want to kind of touch on redlining and then take it like a step further, right? Like you get the house, what are some ways that we've used real estate to buy another business or invest in this or invest in that? So, you know, just kind of a full range conversation. I have that coming up. The homebuyer trivia, that's something new I'm trying, so I hope people come out.
That sounds like fun.
I
out and support.
I could do that one.
Yeah.
I think that's
Come out and
Yeah.
support Virginia.
Yeah, I'm definitely
Yeah,
gonna come out to one of these.
Yeah, homebuyer trivia. I think I have on the website Intro to Home Buying, which is next year. But I am going to relaunch my workshop series.
I love your website. Can you tell the audience how they get in touch with your website?
Yes, so www.buildingblockstogether.com. If you pop on the screen and it's bright yellow, then you're on the right website.
Okay.
Bright yellow.
Bright yellow.
Right. I like it.
I guess where can someone contact you? What's all your information so someone can get a hold of you when they're in a position to get grants or wanna
Yeah,
get to
so website buildingblockstogether.com. We do have a contact form that pops up. Virginia Rawlins on Facebook, Virginia Rawlins real estate salesperson on Facebook, Building Blocks Together on Facebook, Instagram. I try to be as accessible as possible.
Okay.
And then my contact info at buildingblockstogether.com, vrollins@buildingblockstogether.com.
Wow, holy moly.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. You know what? Because I think with the grant being so flexible, right? Like, so there's no if let's say Jerry bought the grant, used the grant today, and he decided something happened, he had to leave tomorrow, right? With another grant, other federal grant, state grant, some of them there's a repayment requirement if you move out at a certain point, right? So obviously he's not seasoned in the house at any level, right? So if he, let's say for example, got a TRIP grant, he would be responsible to pay back a certain amount because he's only lived in it for a certain amount, right? So this grant, I hate to say that it's free money, but it's free money.
Yep.
It's literally, I hate to say it like that, but it's literally free money. So as far as the bank is concerned, it's a gift from a nonprofit organization. The nonprofit organization being the Carl E. Tui Foundation. You have to be African American. You have to buy in the program area, and you have to be a first-time home buyer. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Tui.
Yeah, thank you. Right. Thank you, Mr. Tui.
Thank you, Mr. Tui.
No,
Thank you.
seriously,
Thank you.
he like the work that he's done. Like sometimes I think about it and I'm like thinking about the work that he's done, the work that he's doing, obviously through me, right? Through supporting Building Blocks. He's supporting, like I said, a lot of the grassroots organization I know personally in Albany. I know he's done some work and he's moving out to Schenectady. So he's really, he's like, where's the issue? All right, cool. Wow. Let's address the issue. Like he doesn't want, even when I'm writing my grant reports, he's like, I don't want fluff. Tell me what happened. Tell me how you gonna use the money or how you use the money. Give me like a little blurb and that's it. Like I want at least paper that I have to read as possible, right? But obviously there's the board and you have to satisfy the board requirements. But he's pretty much.
Thank you, Mr. Tui.
Yeah. So he's just pretty much like giving out money. Like even with this grant, like he called me during the pandemic. At the time I was still at Capitalize Albany. He was like, "Oh, Virginia, I have a question." So we were connected actually through the land bank. He's the president of the land bank board. So he's like, "Virginia, what's up? I hear that you started Building Blocks. I have this grant. I just want to know what you think about it." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's great." He was like, "I'm gonna give it to this organization, this organization." I was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." He was like, "So what about Building Blocks? Like, what are you guys doing over there?" I'm like, "I'm working full time." What do you mean? What am I doing? I'm hosting workshops when I can, but I'm not really, doing too much. He's like, "All right, well, what if I gave you $100,000? What do you think about that?" I'm like, "What? Me?" So he was like, "Yeah, let's start with 100,000 and let's see what happens from there." So I went from 100,000. I think I did 2 rounds of 250, and then the last round was 500,000. Yeah. So he like I said, and then I met with him maybe like a month ago. And he's like, "So you're applying for more money, right?" I'm like, "I'm still finishing up this round," but yes, I'm applying for some more money. So with somebody like that, I think. He's like literally trying to cut out the red tape. He's like I said, he's like, where's the issue? Let's treat the issue and directly deal with the issue, right? And it's like putting the funding with the organizations that are already doing the work, right? He's not looking to start necessarily a new organization or be the person that's in the forefront. Like even I think I had the TUI when some of my earlier documents had the TUI like logo on. He's like, "Why is the TUI logo on? Well, like why isn't that the Building Blocks logo?" I'm like, "Because it's your money." And he was like, "But you're running it, it's yours." And I'm like, wow. Right? So he's like that type of person. So he's really like, how can we help you to be successful, right? And especially if you have a mission that's giving back to Black and brown communities, right? He just wants to hear what you have to say, and he's going to figure out how to make the money work for you, pretty much.
Well, he's someone we have to get on the show.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
He's definitely
he's like amazing.
Fabulous.
Amazing, yeah.
But thank you, Virginia.
Thank you guys for having
wealth of
me.
knowledge, businesswoman. You have so many credentials. You've helped so many people.
Motivator.
Yeah,
I know you're.
I mean, so soon, So I will say this about the grant. So the grant is geared towards African Americans, right? And like I said, the funding comes from TUI Foundation, right? My hope is, and I've been literally shopping around. I've submitted a couple proposals. Ideally, and this is based on the numbers, right? That's kind of how our statistics always kind of back you up. Right, if we're talking about minority homeownership, like I guess I would be remiss, especially being from the Bronx, right, to not include Hispanics in that, right? So trying to create an in-house grant, right, that would be the ultimate goal. That kind of expands it. I haven't taken official feedback, but I do receive feedback whether I want to or not, and that's something that that I've definitely gotten from the beginning, right? Hispanics, what's up with that, right? So that's one thing, and then I think it's great, right, that we're addressing the previously redlined areas, right? But if the ultimate goal is to create generational wealth and give people that leg up, if you will, they should be able to buy in Niskayuna and Colony and Loudonville, right? In the better school districts where their houses, unfortunately or fortunately for them, if they're able to buy there, right, their houses are going to appreciate a little bit faster, right? So that's something that I'm still working on kind of in-house, right, to kind of get new funds to administer a grant. That's very similar, but kind of, addresses the weak spots that I see with the grant personally. Wow. Yeah.
Hey, I have a question for you. Can you share with our audience a fun fact that not many people know about you?
A fun fact. I think people will be very surprised to know that I love capital letters to sleep. I love to sleep. Like if I'm not like working, like I like sleep is my best friend. But something else that's cool about me, I think I love to travel, and like I'm a big foodie.
All right.
Yeah. So there's a group, 518 Foodies, right? I think that's the name of the group. And like I literally just kind of go like, oh, okay, that's cool. And I'll check out the menu, and I like plan a date with myself and just kind of go try new stuff.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and the capital region is like great for that,
There are a
right?
lot
Like,
of really new
and I'm talking about
restaurants opening up.
non-brand restaurants, like real local.
There's been a lot of new things that come to the area. They don't always last so long, which is unfortunate. But the fact is, people are willing to try new restaurants all the time.
Yeah.
I went to a planning board meeting, which I had nothing to talk about. So for me, it was just something to do.
Yeah.
And since I had no horse in the race, maybe it would be boring. But I saw people get restaurant approvals and barbershop approvals.
Oh,
and
that's wonderful. for the
I mean,
community,
I mean, that's an hour and a half conversation boiled down to 2 sentences. I saw stuff get approved. But the fact is that people are trying, and they're getting approval for it, and it's exciting to see, you know, as things change, where it's going to go. And there's a lot of really cool food, and I'm very thankful that it's not just only chain restaurants. You know, you got your mom and pops, you got your little 10-seat restaurants, and to me, that's I think the world's better the more 10-seat restaurants we have.
Correct.
Yeah,
And then
I agree.
here in the capital region, you see so much creativity, so much, so many people trying new things. So that's why I always speak highly about the capital region. I always tell people, move to Albany, move to Schenectady, because there's so much here that people don't even know.
Honestly, like it's just to me, it's a great area, right? Cost of living. You can obviously live on the lower end if you choose to, but they have what they call market rate apartments at $1,500, $1,700, which is like in the city would be easily 35 for $4,000, right? You're approximate to Boston, you're approximate to upstate, you're approximate to New York City. I don't know, like
You got the airport in Albany.
you got the airport. At this point, I prefer Albany Airport over JFK.
Oh yeah, easy.
Day.
Like, and people are like, well, like, how big is the airport? I'm like, it's big. It's literally like this big,
Oh my
but
God. It's growing.
right?
It's growing though. They
Yeah.
have plans to
No, yeah.
expand, and they're
they're
building.
about to expand it. Yeah, that's gonna be a great project.
So, thank you again, Virginia.
Thank you.
Thank you
You were the
guys for having
best
me.
guest to have on the first episode of the Homes Podcast.
You're awesome.
As we start to wrap up today, because we're about out of time here, and this has been really fun. So this has been exciting for me. I'm glad everyone is comfortable. I do want to see comments and people post questions and whatnot, because I do think that we will have the ability to pick questions, or the most asked question, or what we consider the best question, maybe answer it next week. Or if someone asks questions on, hey, I couldn't find this, or Virginia talked about other grants, where can I find that information, and we could tie things in. And so please, I do hope the people who watch this or listen to us in the car or whatever get some value. But we do want to engage with the people who listen, right? Because we may not ask the right question, we may ask a question in a different way. We want the information we talk about to be digestible. We do plan on having information about upcoming events that we want to talk about, to keep things hyper local and very time sensitive. So if someone listens to us 6 months from now, I say, hey, tomorrow I'm going to be somewhere, I won't be there 6 months from now tomorrow, but we just want to highlight certain things.
Yeah, I think for building blocks, like the education portion, and I think it's done a little bit differently, right? Like I'll give the workshop a different name. I'll go to a different venue. I've done workshops with, Schenectady and BCNI to kind of discuss their programs. Same with Trip. That's something that I'm, looking to actually like replicate upcoming. But yeah, I think just kind of subscribe to the page. And we're going to have a whole bunch of like content, available resources. As we grow, as I grow, as I gain some capacity, there'll be more content and stuff for investors and developers as well. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, we'll be having an Instagram page. We definitely have to start that, a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So we'll be catching up to you.
I actually don't even use my YouTube page like how I'm supposed to, but that's,
you have to. You have a lot of knowledge,
Yeah.
so you have to put that energy out there. Well,
We got some great resources
yeah.
on that.
Any final thoughts, Joe?
I'm just thrilled to be here, really talking to you guys and the community, and we're really here to grow and all grow together, make a big difference.
Well said.
Thank you.
I had a blast, guys. I'm probably the best part of my day.
I don't think you want to leave.
I don't. But I'm wicked excited to see where we go together and see
Yeah.
what we can offer for the people who,
For sure.
who want to learn more.
I agree.
So yeah, please follow, and this program will evolve, and hopefully it evolves in a way where everyone gets more and more value out of it.
Correct.
Looks like we're down to the last couple of seconds. So again, thank you to each and every one of you.
Thank you. I
you.
appreciate
Yes.
it. I really do.
Yes.
Cool, guys. Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
Thanks.